What if a single moment could restore everything you thought was lost forever? What if faith wasn't just something you believed, but something you could actually witness? And what happens when hope walks into a room where death has already spoken? In the book of Acts of the Apostles 9:32-43, we encounter two powerful moments that reveal something deeper than miracles themselves. This is not just about healing a paralyzed man or raising someone from the dead. It's about what happens when faith becomes active, when compassion meets power, and when God moves in ways people cannot ignore. As the story begins, Peter is traveling from place to place, visiting believers and strengthening the early church. His journey brings him to a town called Lydda, where he meets a man whose life had been defined by limitation. His name was Aeneas. For 8 years, Aeneas had been bedridden. 8 years of dependence. 8 years of watching life move forward without him. 8 years of silence, frustration, and likely questions that had no answers. We're not told how he became paralyzed. We're not given details about his past. But we are given something more important, the moment that changed everything. Peter looks at him and says something simple yet powerful. "Aeneas, Jesus Christ heals you. Get up and roll up your mat." There is no long speech, no ritual, no hesitation, just authority, just faith, just truth spoken with certainty. And immediately, Aeneas gets up. Think about that. 8 years undone in a moment. The body that once refused to move now responds. The life that seemed stuck is suddenly restored. The impossible becomes visible. And the impact doesn't stop with Aeneas. All those who lived in Lydda and Sharon saw him and turned to the Lord. This is what happens when transformation is undeniable. When something real takes place, people notice. They ask questions. They reconsider what they thought was possible. Aeneas didn't just receive healing. His life became a testimony. But the story doesn't end there. Not far from Lydda, in a town called Joppa, another situation was unfolding, and this one carried a different kind of weight. A woman named Dorcas, also known as Tabitha, had become very sick. But she wasn't just anyone. Dorcas was known for her kindness, her generosity, her constant acts of love. She made clothes for those in need. She cared for widows. She lived a life that quietly made the world better for others. She wasn't famous. She wasn't powerful. But she mattered. And then she died. The grief in that room must have been overwhelming. The widows stood around weeping, holding the garments Dorcas had made. Each piece of clothing was more than fabric. It was a memory, a reminder of her love, a symbol of a life that had touched so many. This wasn't just loss. It was the loss of someone who gave, someone who served, someone who made a difference. But in their grief, the disciples did something important. They remembered Peter. They had heard what happened in Lydda. They had seen or heard about Aeneas. And so, instead of accepting the situation as final, they sent for Peter urgently. When Peter arrived, he was brought upstairs to the room, and what he saw was not just death. It was love, expressed through tears. It was impact, visible through the people who mourned. It was a life that had left a mark. Peter did something unexpected. He sent everyone out of the room. Sometimes, before something extraordinary happens, there must be silence, space, a moment away from the noise of grief and expectation. Then Peter knelt down and prayed. Notice this carefully. Before speaking to Dorcas, he spoke to God. Before acting, he listened. And then, turning toward the body, he said, "Tabitha, get up." 2 words, simple, direct, filled with authority, and something impossible happened. She opened her eyes. Imagine that moment. The stillness broken, the breath returning, the eyes opening where there had been none. Dorcas sat up. Peter took her by the hand and helped her to her feet. Then he called the believers and the widows and presented her to them alive. Can you imagine the shock, the disbelief, the overwhelming joy? Tears that once came from grief now flowed from amazement. What was lost had been restored. What was final had been reversed. And just like with Aeneas, the impact spread. This became known all over Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord. 2 miracles, 2 lives restored. But one message: faith is not passive. It moves. It acts. It believes even when the situation seems finished. Aeneas represents those who feel stuck, those who have been in the same condition for so long that change feels impossible. Maybe it's not physical paralysis, maybe it's fear, doubt, regret, a situation that hasn't changed for years. Aeneas reminds us that no condition is too permanent for God, no situation is too far gone, and sometimes all it takes is one moment, one word, one encounter, for everything to change. Dorcas represents something different. She represents a life of quiet impact. Not loud, not attention-seeking, but deeply meaningful. She gave, she served, she cared, and when she was gone, people felt it. Her story reminds us that what we do for others matters. The kindness you show, the help you give, the love you offer, it leaves a mark. Even if the world doesn't celebrate it, people remember it, and God sees it. But her story also reminds us of something even greater. That death is not the end of the story. Now, this moment is unique. It's not something we see happen every day, but it points to a deeper truth, that God's power is greater than even the finality we fear most. Both stories carry a common thread. They point beyond Peter. Peter is not the source. He is the vessel. When he speaks to Aeneas, he says clearly, Jesus Christ heals you. When he prays before raising Dorcas, he acknowledges where the power comes from. This is important because it reminds us that the power of transformation does not come from human ability. It comes from God. Peter simply believed. He acted. He obeyed. And through that obedience, something greater was revealed. These stories also show us the role of community. Aeneas was known in his town. Dorcas was surrounded by people who loved her. The disciples in Joppa didn't isolate themselves in grief. They reached out. Faith is not meant to be lived alone. There are moments when you need others to stand with you, to call for help when you can't, to believe when your own faith feels weak. And there are moments when you are called to be that person for someone else, to notice, to care, to act, to step into someone's situation and bring hope. There's also something deeply human in this story, the tension between what we see and what we believe. Aeneas looked like someone who would never walk again. Dorcas looked like someone whose story had ended. But what we see is not always the full picture. Sometimes what looks final is not final. Sometimes what looks impossible is not impossible. And faith is the bridge between those two realities. It doesn't deny what we see, but it refuses to be limited by it. Peter didn't ignore reality. He saw the paralysis, he saw the death, but he also saw something else. He saw the possibility of God moving in that situation, and he acted on that belief. That's what makes this story powerful. It's not just about miracles, it's about perspective, about seeing beyond the surface, about believing that change is possible, even when everything suggests otherwise. And maybe that's where this story meets you. Maybe you're in a place that feels stuck, like Aeneas, waiting, hoping, but not seeing change. Or maybe you've experienced loss, like the people around Dorcas, holding on to memories, wondering if anything can restore what was lost. Or maybe you're in a position like Peter, where you're being called to step into someone else's situation, to bring hope, to act, to believe. Wherever you are in that picture, this story speaks. It reminds us that faith is not just about what we say, it's about what we do. It's about how we respond. It's about whether we are willing to trust even when the outcome is uncertain. Aeneas got up. Dorcas opened her eyes. And an entire region witnessed something they could not explain away. Lives changed, hearts turned, and the message spread, not because of arguments, not because of persuasion, but because of undeniable transformation. Thank you for watching this video. If this message encouraged you or made you reflect, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share this video with others. Your support helps spread messages of hope, faith, and transformation to more people around the world.